Today's episode is titled, What Construction Leaders Can Learn from legendary Hall of Fame manager Earl Weaver, who was raised by the Mafia prediction machine. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast, where we help construction executives lead high-performing teams, finish on time and under budget without all the firefighting and babysitting, so you can lead with focus and control. I am your host, Bradley Hartman. Now, in today's episode, you will discover a powerful new tool that is free to help you see around corners better. And that's what the best leaders do. They seem to have an innate sense of looking around corners to see what's coming next. It's not magic. They are forecasting and they are learning faster. And that's what you'll be able to learn here today. How? There are 4 elements of a good prediction and a brand new tool that we built for you that is free to help you do just that. As always, thank you for listening. There are a couple of obvious ways, even to a child, to recognize when your uncle is in the mob. One is when he flips open the hidden lid of the ottoman in the family room of a St. Louis suburb and casually hauls out $70,000 in cash. Another is when he gets drunk, pulls out his Colt M1911, and shoots your aunt in the hip.
One of these days, right in the kisser.
Disappears for a week, shows up again, and then turns himself into the police. And then, well, nothing. No charges, no consequences, not from the authorities, and apparently not from his wife either, as far as little Earl Weaver could see in 1941. Uncle Bud just appeared one Sunday at the family barbecue, manning the grill like a boss, as if nothing ever happened. Aunt Irene was restricted to a chair in the kitchen. She wouldn't walk for another 6 weeks. A lifetime later, the Hall of Fame Baltimore Orioles manager would reflect on his youth dominated by baseball and betting. And while all human beings are prediction-making machines, Earl Weaver took his predictions and probabilistic thinking about baseball and changed the game forever. Decades before the Oakland A's, Billy Beane, Michael Lewis, and Moneyball, 10-year-old Earl was making predictions, bets on the future, every day of the summer alongside his gangster bookie, Uncle Bud, in the grandstand at Sportsman's Park in St. Louis. Now, a reasonable question to ask any father is, why on earth would you let your mobbed-up brother-in-law spend any time with your son, let alone be his mafioso nanny every summer? Well, the truth is, Earl's father was close by during those summer days at the ballpark. He owned a laundry business and worked 100-hour weeks during the labor-scarce war years of the early 1940s. While Earl watched the games from the stands, his father was in the bowels of the stadium, laundering uniforms for both the Cardinals and their American League co-tenants, the St. Louis Browns, who would, coincidentally, later become the Baltimore Orioles. And so, little Earl had free tickets to every professional baseball game in St. Louis during the summers and a chaperone whose business was baseball betting. In his wonderful new book, The Last Manager, author John W. Miller writes, young Earl Weaver didn't just watch baseball. He analyzed it via the sports daily roulette wheel of precise, probabilistic outcomes. Uncle Bud gave Earl money and let him place bets. There were multi-team parlays and in-game prop bets on pitch counts, runs scored, runs allowed, home runs, and dozens of other categories. The same kind of action today's DraftKings or FanDuel customer would instantly recognize. Still years away from puberty, Earl learned lessons about baseball that he'd carry throughout his playing career in the minor leagues, as well as his decades managing the Orioles. The 3 principles that follow were contrarian ideas in 1940. It would take another 7 decades for this wisdom to seep through the game. Just further proof that degenerate gamblers are the quickest among us to change their minds. Number 1, Never waste an out. The 27 outs in a baseball game determine its length. Weaver carried that logic further than any other manager at the time, becoming fanatical about on-base percentage as the definitive offensive measurement because getting on base gave him more time to score runs. The concept of small ball, sacrificing outs in an attempt to score a run, infuriated the man. Bunting with a non-pitcher is idiotic, Weaver said, unless that run will win the game. 2. 4-man pitching rotations. Weaver employed a 4-man rotation instead of the usual 5, he said, because I want my best pitchers on the mound whenever they feel good. Under Weaver, a pitcher recorded a 20-win season 22 times, the most ever under a single manager, and he did so with fewer injuries. As you'll see shortly, there's a big gap between the best decision makers and the worst. Considering how this affects your leadership decisions begins with measurement. 3. Pitcher and pitch tracking. Every bookie knows baseball is ultimately a bet on pitching. Weaver was the first manager to track and share data on each pitcher's success rate against certain hitters, including the type of pitches thrown. Now, each decision you make can be considered an at-bat. You'll learn how to track it so you can then begin to improve it. Earl Weaver didn't have to learn probabilistic thinking. Forecasting outcomes and learning quickly was just part of growing up. Well, not everyone is lucky enough to receive their life lessons from a guy who'll break your legs over a parlay, but Weaver was.
Earl and I, we were doing the game alone in Kansas City in 83 or 84. And we're in the Monday Night Baseball. We're in the car going to the airport on Tuesday morning. And Earl's got a little ledger book, and I see him scratching out some numbers, and I think he's doing stats. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm adding in last night's fee to my net worth. I said, what are you doing? He said, if I never get to work again, this is how much money I will have, and figuring out, how long I can live and have not run out of money. So Earl was like a human actuarial table, sitting there in the car, figuring out what his net worth was every Tuesday morning.
He had a number.
He had a number.
His actual
divided
net worth
by, right.
After Monday Night Football,
Here's
you're going
my
to the
fee.
airport.
I'm adding it to my net worth, divided by how long I think I'm going to live.
For the rest of us, we must wrestle with a paradox. Humans are constantly making predictions as we navigate daily life, making between 100 and 1,000 conscious decisions each day. And yet, we're naturally poor probabilistic thinkers. The exciting part, though, is that you can change this. You can become more successful and a much better decision maker by improving your predictions and accelerating how quickly you learn from them. You can be a more effective manager, just like Earl Weaver. So the question becomes, how? Using data from 1,638 real-world predictions made by 32 MBA students from the University of Oklahoma, all working in the construction industry, my team and I identified 4 key components of a strong prediction. Now, these 4 components of a good prediction can be remembered just as Uncle Bud would have liked it by ignoring the vowels in the phrase bet more. That is BTMR. It stands for business relevant, time-bound, measurable, and rationale. Now, before we dive into these 4 components, I just want to pause for a minute to make sure you're tracking with me here. The idea is the more we can document what we think is going to happen, it allows for increased learning when that outcome does or doesn't happen. Most of us, however, go through life making predictions but not documenting them, and then when things happen, we probably look back with a bit of hindsight bias, knowing that, well, of course that happened. It's obvious because we know what happened. But this ideal of documenting your own predictions can dramatically increase your performance. So that's what we're talking about here. And this Bet More framework will help you document these predictions. Furthermore, I'm also going to give you access to a free app that can do this for you and track your ability to make good predictions in the future to become a better leader. Got it? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And with that, let's jump into the 4 components of a good prediction. Number 1, business relevant. When developing the habit of documenting predictions, you can literally start with any predictions. Once you get in the habit of saying, will my 7-year-old win her softball game this weekend? You'll notice how, much like our MBA students, you'll want to start making predictions that actually grow your business. For example, one student's prediction on January 20th of 2025, Notre Dame will win the national championship, was not relevant to business. It was also wrong. So of the 1,638 predictions that we collected from these construction industry MBA students, 68.3% were ultimately relevant to their business. Number 2, time-bound. Without a deadline, how do we know when we can evaluate our prediction and learn from it? My MBA students made time-bound predictions 62.6% of the time. The following prediction is business-related, but includes no time frame for completion. I will set quality standards across my portfolio projects as we work to standardize processes across departments as we continue to grow. So while I like the intent here, specify a time by which this will happen, and this prediction becomes much better. Number 3, measurable. Can this be measured? In other words, will the outcome deliver full clarity about whether it did or did not happen? Of the 1,638 predictions, 85.8% were measurable. One counter example, my team's morale will improve a bit from spending time together when I take them out to lunch next Thursday. Now, an immediate question is, what constitutes a bit? And how will we know if investing in team lunches as a tactic to improve morale is worthwhile? And number 4, rationale. This component was the least intuitive, yet arguably the most important feature of a prediction to help you make smarter decisions. Number 4, rationale. This component was the least intuitive, yet arguably the most important feature of a prediction to help you make smarter decisions. A rationale provides the why behind the prediction. Why do you think lunch would improve morale? Why did you think you'd be able to set quality standards? Only 24.3% of the predictions included a full rationale. So those are the 4 predictions. If you're making a prediction right now about something that matters to you and you're sitting at your desk or you're driving along, you're thinking about them, the question would be, is it business related? Is there a deadline or is it time-bound? Can we even measure this in some way? And did you include a rationale? And if you include all those things, when the outcome either does or doesn't happen, it will allow us to immediately learn from it. And that's the goal. So after analyzing almost 1,700 of these predictions from construction professionals getting their masters, here are the top 3 insights that we've gathered from these components. Number 1, more predictions lead to better predictions. So there was a positive correlation between volume of predictions and better predictions over time, even in the absence of external coaching. That is, if your team begins to develop the habit of thinking in bets and documenting predictions, they'll simply improve on their own. Number 2, top predictors were 21% better. One of our hypotheses was a substantial spread between the top and bottom predictors within the class. And there was a 21% spread. I will not go into the details about standard deviation because I barely understand them myself. That's why we hired a data scientist. What I will say is that while many MBA students clustered around the average in terms of accurately predicting the future, notable performers were above and below that threshold. When we split the 32 students into quartiles, that is, quarters, the top 8 students' prediction accuracy ranged from 83 to 89%, while the lowest quartile ranged from 68 to 74%. The delta between those was 15%. So what the hell does this mean? It means some students consistently outperform others in predictive reasoning. Hopefully, this generates some curiosity as you think about your own team and which individuals rank in which quartile on the predictions that drive your business. And insight number 3, the desire to be right is stronger than the desire to learn. The qualitative data from individual students revealed a consistent, though not entirely rational, pattern. The desire to record accurate predictions led them to make safer, less meaningful choices. One student explained it this way: "Even though there is nothing to lose, I made safer predictions at first just to feel good. I wanted to be right. However, over time, I realized that things would unfold regardless, so I stopped being competitive and started making more honest, riskier predictions." Most students at the time nodded in agreement. Another one added, "I wanted the highest score possible. Even though the predictions were private, I hesitated to include difficult work decisions because I didn't want my score to drop." Now, this behavior may not be rational for MBA students or you or me or anyone else, but it is genuine. Now, as you think about the members of your team and maybe some of the other executive leaders with which you work, you probably have an intuitive sense of how good these individuals make decisions. The good news is, and we would characterize this as some sort of gut feeling based on an aggregation of your experience over time. The good news is there's an app that we built specifically to help people make better decisions and include these 4 components of a good prediction: business relevant, time-bound, measurability, and rationale. The tool is called the Better Decisions app, and it's free, and it's the tool we use to gather the nearly 1,700 predictions from the University of Oklahoma students. Now, as you open the Better Decisions app and you go to make your first predictions, say it's, "I will be offered the promotion in the next 30 days, you will see that we can categorize them in many different ways. We have key initiatives: talent or HR, competition, sales, marketing, or operations. And the idea is something that I have found out doing this myself for the last several years, is that there are certain categories of decisions on which I am pretty good. I'm over 90%, with several hundred predictions made and learned from in the past. There are other ones that I find out I'm really, really poor. And this is valuable as we look to build our team, because if we know we're not very good at making these types of decisions, we can get help and we can allow other people, and we can track their ability to make better decisions. So we are in fact better as a team than working as a series of individuals. So you'll enter your prediction. You will add a reveal date, so it is time bound, on the calendar. You will select the relevant category among those I just named. There is one more that says other. And you'll use the slider to select a probability interval. So you'll say, "I'm confident of 51%, or 72%, or 98%. And the app will reward high confidence scores that become true. It will also penalize high confidence scores that do not. So that's it. That's the Better Decisions app. It's free. I made it for you. And no, we do not collect the data. So whatever your predictions are, I won't have access to them, and I don't really care. You can download it now at any app store, and you can start documenting your predictions for the few, say 3 to 5, most important decisions you'll have to make this week. The gambling known as business looks with austere disfavor upon the business known as gambling. Ambrose Bierce, American writer, 1842 to 1914. While Earl Weaver led his Orioles to 4 World Series, he was a champion only once. But the reality is that he was far better than that. Weaver posted the highest winning percentage, .583, of any manager with 1,000 wins since scribbling his first lineup card as skipper in 1968. Earl Weaver is the only manager to win at least 100 games in each of his first 3 full seasons. He won 90 games in a season 11 times. In his 15 seasons at the helm, Weaver's Orioles finished first or second 12 times. His only losing season was his last. If the Oakland A's, Billy Beane, Michael Lewis, and Moneyball taught us anything, it's what Earl Weaver learned as a childhood gambler with Uncle Bud in Sportsman's Park. Thinking probabilistically guarantees nothing in the short run. Anything can happen in a 7-game series. To gain an edge, you must play the long game. Earl Weaver succeeded over the long run by thinking differently. He didn't need the Better Decisions app. He naturally thought in probabilities, made predictions, and analyzed outcomes. And that mindset helped make him one of the greatest managers of all time. You can succeed in the same way by thinking in bets. Download the Better Decisions app and share the 4 key criteria for making good predictions with your team. After all, everyone intuitively gambles on the future. Help your team make smarter bets and learn more effectively from the results. Do this, and you'll see an analytical approach is a better approach to managing and leading your team. So, friend, thank you for listening. I hope you found this story about Earl Weaver and probabilistic thinking, and I hope you'll find our free app, the Better Decisions app, to be useful. You can find it on any app platform. What I will tell you is there's a lot of data science and data visualization that went into this article that I had drafted for something else. So if you are interested in seeing more of the data to support this, let me know. I'd be happy to share with you. You can email us directly at info@BradleyHartman, 2 N's, info@BradleyHartmanandco.com. Again, we all recognize that the best leaders seem to have this intuitive ability to see around corners, to understand what's coming next, and to prepare their teams to thrive in whatever environment we come into the future. I would argue this is not magic. What these individuals are doing, either with something like the Better Decisions app or on their own, is they are thinking through their predictions. They are documenting those, and they're identifying when they're right and when they're wrong. And all of us can say, yeah, well, I just kind of have this feeling in my gut. And what that is pattern recognition. And that comes from experiencing life and all the joys and travails that come with it. If you want to get smarter, faster, and you want to see around corners further, the way to do that is to make better, more consistent predictions and document them and learn from them without the hindsight bias interrupting and slowing your learning curve. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Construction Leadership Podcast that puts out new episodes every single Tuesday. Go now, download the Better Decisions app. It's free. Start making predictions and start learning to be a better leader. That's all I've got. Thank you for listening. We're going to close out with our leadership mantra. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.